As NPR put it, Biden and Trump would have had an electoral college tie if it were not for 44,000 votes cast between Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. In Arizona, Biden won by just 10,000 votes, and that is the state where on Friday we will be able to see the report documenting the audit results there in Maricopa County, Arizona. For those who haven't paid attention to the audit so far, I caught up with Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers and asked her if she would break down the audit for Dummies.
Great to be with you. I'm a state senator who represents Northern Arizona. I'm in Flagstaff at my home. I'll be headed back down to Phoenix tomorrow for Friday, which will be the report of the Arizona audit, so-called Arizona audit. It's actually of one county in Arizona, specifically Maricopa County, which encompasses the Phoenix area. So it was a deep dive cyber forensic audit, one of a kind, certainly unprecedented, of 2.1 million ballots. And this is to say that it's not only a recount of the ballots, but it was an evaluation of each ballot itself to the tune of about 1 minute per ballot, where 4 features were examined: the fibers of the paper, the cross-hatched printing of how the ballot was printed as to whether or not it was an authentic ballot, the watermarks, the yellow dot watermarks, whether or not they were present. And most interesting to me was the analysis of the actual oval bubble that was filled in to ostensibly vote for a candidate. We could tell if it was done by a human or not, based on a microscopic capable camera. So there were 2,000 volunteers who worked at the audit, in addition to the paid professionals who stood it up and did the analysis. The 2,000 volunteers had to have been all Maricopa County voters who had voted in the November 2020 election. Each one was background checked and vetted, and never was asked what party he or she was from. So these are extremely precise procedures to make sure that the people on the floor were carrying out very legal procedures. It was a pristine environment. We rented the Phoenix Coliseum, which is at the fairgrounds, and it was a very legalistically run, precision-oriented, accountability-laden, chain of custody-oriented endeavor. We were upheld in court 4 times. We basically went against the county supervisors to get the information we needed and wanted, and they tried to forestall us every time. And so we had to go after them again and again. And that's why it has taken so long. People across the country say, well, I've heard a little bit about the audit in Arizona. Why has it taken so many months? Well, it's because we had to go to court and we had to keep pursuing and tenaciously going after the truth. And so now here we are. We have had an interim report that came out in July, which showed numerous inexplicable anomalies, thousands of ballots cast by, say, for example, voters who didn't register in time to have legally voted, votes that were cast where those then voters dropped off the voter rolls in December inexplicably, all kinds of anomalous data points, which added up to way more than what the presidential election was won by, which was only about 10,000 votes. So that's the audit, and we will get the final report Friday, and we expect it to be dramatic, and it will be truthful. And if criminal wrongdoing is found, then that will be referred to the Arizona Attorney General. Separately from the audit done by independent Arizonans was a canvass, CANVASS, 2 S's at the end. What that is a scrubbing of the voter rolls. In other words, a team or teams going door to door to ascertain who really lives there, who could have voted. For example, if a house address shows 10 people voted from there, the team would go to that house and say, hi, are the 10 voters here? And the person at the door would say, no, never heard of 9 of those people. I'm the only one who's lived here for 20 years. This is what has been happening. The books have been cooked across the country, i.e. the voter rolls have been inaccurate and padded largely in urban areas to pre-cheat. And so what you have at the end of the day is a corrupt system across this country. All 50 states should be canvassed and audited. The canvass is one component, the audit is another component. Together, they dovetail to tell the story of corruption in our country. And if we don't get it back and we don't get control of our elections, we are losing our democracy.
So the separate canvas, is that also going to be released on Friday?
That was already released 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
It's not part of the audit. We would have liked to have had it be a part of our audit, but we experienced a lot of pressure from the federal government. And so we had to make a command decision to not have the canvas as part of our audit. So a bunch of really astute Arizonans got together and did a canvas themselves and actually developed their own software to do it. And so this is what needs to happen across the country. Everything needs to be audited and canvassed, especially the counties that have used these machines.
The Dominion machines.
Yes, and others.
Yeah. Elections systems and software, I believe, has similar problems, those machines. And I have evidence from that when I was working at Fox, which my bosses didn't want to put out.
Of course. Oh, you know, I gave Brett Baer my fake news award.
Oh, wow.
This was a few months ago.
Oh, right.
For calling Arizona erroneously. And then I gave him extra points for blocking me. And then I guess I really embarrassed him because a day later he unblocked me. But it's ridiculous. We states need to take this country back. The US Constitution endows the state legislatures. Let me repeat that. The US Constitution endows the state legislatures with oversight of the US presidential election. Most people don't know that. It is up to the states to decertify the US election. So in January, every state turned in a certification of electors to the federal government. Since July, when the interim report came out from the Arizona audit, called to decertify what Arizona turned in January. And now I call on my colleagues, especially Friday after the full report comes out, to also join me to decertify. The long and the short of it is, in Arizona, we have only a 1-vote majority in our state Senate, 16-14, Republican to Democrat. We have a 1-vote majority in our Arizona State House, 31-29. So it's going to be absolutely the order of the day for my fellow Republicans to join me to call to decertify. That's the next step that needs to be taken. And these other states that are pivotal, Georgia, for example, and Pennsylvania, they need to also dig down, determine, and decertify their electors. And then we take the next step. So one day at a time, step by step. What will the outcome be? I don't know. what we need to take every day and seek the truth. And then the other component is to pass legislation at every state legislature to fix the corruption and the procedures in election law and the mechanisms, so that in 2022 we don't have this happen again.
Right. So with the canvas, how many people did you find, how many voters who cast ballots did you find actually didn't live at the address where they were registered to vote? And where can the public find more details on the canvas results?
I didn't do the canvas, but from what they reported, there were over 200,000 votes in question based on ghost voters, illegal voters, voters that voted, but then their ballots didn't get tallied. So over 200,000. Just Google, DuckDuckGo, or go on Twitter, Facebook, look up Seth Keshel, S-E-T-H, last name K-E-S-H-E-L, or Liz Harris, L-I-Z, Harris, H-A-R-R-I-S. Both of them, those are the two key names on the canvas of Arizona. Seth Keshel is a former Army intelligence officer, captain, and he has been doing canvases and analysis of several states. He is a real intellect and a very data-driven analyst. And so he has done the lion's share of the work. He travels the country. Liz Harris concentrated mostly in Arizona, but Seth Keshel, Liz Harris, those are the two watchword names where you can find all kinds of information. Also, just go on DuckDuckGo and look for Arizona Canvas. I mean, this is really a watershed event, the canvas and then the audit. And really, the corruption is far greater in Pennsylvania and in Georgia. Rudy Giuliani told me that 3 months ago. Arizona's presidential race, there was only a 10,300 vote delta between the two candidates. But in other states, it was far more. And so this is the issue of our time, election integrity. And, I'll just share with you, Ivory, 2 days ago, I got a phone call. No, it was yesterday. It was someone who was seeking my counsel. Someone who's known me for years. I had to run several times before I got elected, by the way. It's kind of a folklore thing in Arizona. Anyway, he said, Wendy, I've known you for years. I'm running for a statewide office. And I said, well, what can I do for you? And he said, I need your advice. And I said, okay. And he said, I want to get elected. And so what would you tell me? I said, well, where are you on election integrity? And he said, oh, I'm all about election integrity. I was just talking to an audience recently, and I said that I'm all for election integrity. And I said, are you willing to publicly call to decertify this election? No answer. I said, unless you are willing to lean forward and unequivocally state that you are willing to call to decertify this election, you are just like every other politician who gives it lip service and doesn't want to follow through and do the right thing and be strong. And this is what people want. They want resolute tenacity. And this is what Arizona has provided. And when people say, oh, it's taking so long, Arizona, why has your audit taken so long? And you know what I say? We've done it more rapidly than 49 other states.
That's right. You guys are kind of leading the charge on this, on the auditing. Well, I was wondering if you could respond to some criticism of the audit. American Oversight basically is saying that whatever the results will be, they won't be trustworthy. You can't trust the results because this has all been done through bias, and that Cyber Ninja is led by someone who was an advocate of the Stop the Steal movement before the audit even began. And so what do you say to that?
Those are leftist talking points. Cyber Ninjas is one of the, if not the top ranked application security companies in America. Cyfir, C-Y-F-I-R, is a data security analysis company. Both companies have had the highest levels of security clearances with the US government. In fact, Cyfir was none other than the company who actually went to the Office of Personnel Management at the federal government level some years ago, I think 4 years ago, and did a demonstration of a different kind of their capability and software, and discovered at OPM that all of the top secret and secret applications that people like me who served in the military filled out had been breached for the past 3 years prior to that. So in other words, this company, Cyfir, one of the two contractors who ran the audit, went into the federal government to demo a different package of software. And because of their access and their excellence, found a breach that the federal government itself didn't know about for 3 years. So for anyone to say that this has been conducted with bias, it's absolutely a smokescreen distractor. Not only their backgrounds are beyond reproach, not only is their level of excellence unmatched, but the procedures that were executed during the audit were absolutely pristine. There was a camera this way and this way on every single workstation. There was a live feed 24/7 of the entire operation. We asked the Maricopa County supervisors to come and watch the audit. They never came. We asked the Arizona Secretary of State to come to watch the audit. She never came. We opened up the audit to the American people to watch. And by the way, everything that was done was chronicled and cataloged into a huge tower of equipment that held every little byte of information, and it totaled over a petabyte. That's P as in Papa, petabyte, which is a lot of terabytes. Wow. And it was all kept in-house, nothing connected to the internet. I was there. I was on the floor many, many times. The procedures were completely above any kind of level of security I saw as a jet pilot in the United States Air Force. And I had people on the floor who would come to me. In fact, the first day I was at the audit in May, the head of security showed me around and he said, "Colonel, I want someone to come over and talk to you here. I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel pilot." And this gentleman came over to talk to me and he said, "I'm an Air Force pilot also. I'm a retired general officer." I kind of sharpened up and snapped to talk to him and out of respect. And he said, "I want to tell you something. I have never seen procedures this tight. I flew for Strategic Air Command, SAC. I know what nuclear handling procedures are all about." He said, "This audit is so professionally run and so crisp and so spot on." He said, "I have to sign out if I go to the bathroom for 10 minutes. And so I kind of put that under my hat and I did an after action report because I'm from a rural part of the state. I have to have 2 houses. I have very hard scrabble constituents who say, "Get yourself down to Phoenix and tell us what's going on down there." So that's kind of the constituency I represent. So I would do these after action reports after I would interview people, and I would get the word out about how the mechanics of the audit were going. So then the word got out, and other state representatives and state senators from other states came to visit the audit. And so I would show them around. Well, one day I had none other than Eric Greitens, who's a former governor of Missouri, who's running for US Senate, who's a former Navy SEAL. And he came and he toured the audit, and he looked me in the eye. He said, "Wendy, I've never seen procedures like this, even as a Navy SEAL." So this is an illustration of two different other military officers like me making three officers to tell everyone there that this audit was run like a Swiss clock. And not only that, but there were three lawyers on the floor the entire time, because we knew we'd get sued. We knew we would be second guessed. We knew that the left would attempt to discredit us. If only the elections were run the way we ran the audit.
Right. And well, you did get sued by American Oversight for the release of your emails in basically the communication with cyber ninjas. And
so what?
So they're saying you guys were trying to keep certain things secret. And why is that? Why not keep everything transparent?
I don't know what they're referring to, honestly. I haven't seen those data points. I can tell you we did everything we could to be transparent, and we were upheld in court 4 times.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to see what comes out on Friday. Anything else you want to say?
2 things. One, hats off to you, because if it isn't for people like you to get the truth out, we don't have a First Amendment.
Right.
And you level the playing field, because platforms like yours added up to other platforms accumulate to much more followership than Fox News has.
Exactly.
And secondly, I beseech everyone watching this to make yourselves be heard by going to my website to sign the petition to decertify the presidential election. Go to my website, which is my name spelled out, Wendy, like the hamburgers, Wendy, Rogers, like Mr. Rogers, ROGERS.org, wendyrogers.org. And on the landing page, you'll see a link in the upper right corner. Click on that link to decertify the presidential election of 2020. And you say to me, well, is this a national petition? Yes, it's a national petition. It is symbolic. And we want 1 million signatures on there by Friday to show that 1 million Americans vote to decertify the presidential election of 2020. Where are we now? We have over 900,000 signatures already. Wow. So this is a huge statement. It is a hue and a cry from the American people for transparency and truth in our elections. So go to wendyrogers.org right now, please, and sign and be heard.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for this interview, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Ivory. God bless America.